I don't know about you, but I am so tired of COVID-19. I remember back in March 2020 when people were saying that we'd have things under control by the summer, and now we're into a new year and we are still dealing with the pandemic. But we've got some vaccines already approved with more in the pipeline, and our doctors are a lot better at treating COVID-19 than they were at the beginning of the pandemic. It seems the end is finally in sight. Or at least it was until multiple countries started reporting that the virus was mutating. Well, shit. Mutations. What are they really? Should I be worried about catching it? If I were to catch it, is that worse than the OG coronavirus? Is the vaccine still going to work? All right, let's do this. So, what exactly is a mutation? According to Google, a mutation is the action or process of mutating. Great, I am so glad that we had this chat. No, but there's a second definition. The changing of the structure of a gene that may be transmitted to subsequent generations. So, in other words, when the virus's genes change, that's a mutation. You might remember from bio class that viruses like COVID-19 work by entering our cells and tricking the cell into making more virus. And then the new viruses infect other cells, and so on. But in order to get the cell to make more virus, the virus has to teach the cell how. That's where the virus's genes come into play, which act as an instruction manual. Normally, the virus makes a copy of its genes, which teach a new cell how to make another virus. But sometimes, the virus messes up the copy, and a slightly different set of instructions is passed on as a copy of the virus, which then enters another cell. Well, this cell has no idea that the instructions are wrong, so it just makes whatever it's told. Sometimes the mutation is so different that it makes the virus stop working. Yay! Other times, the change is so minor that it doesn't really matter. It's basically same virus, different hairstyle.
Rude.
And other times, with some bad luck, it helps the virus survive or makes it more dangerous. These mutations, they're happening all the time and have been happening throughout the pandemic. It's just that most of them don't help the virus. And if they don't help the virus, then they usually die off. So to answer our next question, should I be worried about catching it? We first have to understand what the new mutations actually do. As of now, there are 4 COVID strains talked about in the news. So in addition to the OG coronavirus, there's a new strain from the UK, one from South Africa, one from Brazil, and last but not least, the good old US of A recently added a new contender to the ring from Southern California. There are other strains, but from what we've seen, these are the most common. Each of these strains can have 1 or more mutations. The main mutations of interest in all of these strains change the coronavirus's spike protein, which makes up the pointy spikes on the outside of the virus. Spike proteins are what allow the virus to attach to your cells. These mutations could be good, bad, or do nothing, but for at least 3 of these 4 mutations, scientists think they're kind of bad. Let's first talk about the UK strain. In the UK, from October to December, over half of cases were this new UK strain, and scientists are saying that based on what they're seeing, this new strain is 50% more transmissible than the original coronavirus. So, should you be worried about catching it? Well, kinda, yeah. It seems that this small change to the virus's spike protein made it better at infecting us. And at the end of December, we saw our first cases in California and Colorado. Connecticut, you better watch out because the virus could be going alphabetical.
Ugh.
And unfortunately, this mutation might make the virus more dangerous as well. One group of scientists found that for men in their late 50s or 60s, the virus was about 30% deadlier. Now let's talk about the strains found in South Africa and Brazil. These strains have both the UK strain's main mutation, but also a new spike protein mutation that can make it harder for your body's antibodies to stick to it. What are antibodies? Well, when the body sees proteins that it doesn't recognize, like the proteins in the virus, it learns to make lots of Y-shaped things called antibodies. These antibodies stick to the viral protein and tell your immune system to attack it. And so when the antibodies have a hard time sticking to the virus's protein, your body has a hard time defending against the virus. So, should you be worried about these South African and Brazilian strains? Well, even though some antibodies didn't stick that well to the mutated spike proteins, Each person typically generates many kinds of antibodies to recognize the COVID spike protein. This means that even though you have less antibodies to help find the virus, you still might have enough to fight it off and avoid getting infected again. What about the Southern California strain? Well, this has another spike protein mutation. This one's pretty new and we don't know too much about it yet, but it could also make it harder for antibodies to stick to the spike protein. Now, the last question I have is the vaccine going to work on the mutated virus? And thankfully, I finally have some good news to share. So far, we think that the answer is yes. The new vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna are both mRNA vaccines. These mRNA vaccines teach your cells to make just one type of virus protein, our old friend the spike protein. This protein can't do anything to you by itself, but your body still notices it and starts making antibodies to it. That way, when the real deal shows up, you're ready to fight it off. So then why will the vaccine work if the mutations are changing the spike protein? Well, just like if you were to get infected, the vaccine triggers your body to make many different kinds of antibodies that stick to different parts of the protein. This is called a polyclonal response, and it means that even if the virus keeps mutating, the vaccine should keep working for a while. Eventually, it's possible that the virus will mutate enough that our antibodies aren't very effective anymore, but even then, it's not all doom and gloom. In order to update the vaccine, all we have to do is change the set of instructions so that our cells make the mutated COVID spike protein instead of the old one. Easier said than done, but hey, at least it's a path forward. Here's what you can expect to happen over the coming weeks and months. There will likely be more mutations that come about. When any mutation starts to really spread, governments and scientists will try to contain the spread until they can learn more about the mutations and if they're more dangerous. And this takes time. In the meantime, because as more mutations appear and as more people become infected, one way to have less mutated strains is to have more people become vaccinated and protected. All right, leave a comment below, and if you have any questions or you want us to cover any health topics, just let us know. And please like, share, and subscribe. It would really help us out. Thanks for watching.